Saludos, it's your host, Gabe Morales. Sometimes I forget that not everybody has done time in Calipas or has experience dealing with prison and street gangs who originated from there. I was just about to start my Nuestra Familia roll call series when I recalled an incident that happened when I was on a live radio show addressing gang violence. I was discussing these issues in the local Latino community with a future major city police chief and with a future state Supreme Court judge when the host brought up the use of the Huelga Bird being used by Nortenos as a gang symbol. Now, when he was alive and since his death, I recall some people being very critical of Cesar Chavez for his union actions, especially for his treatment and views towards some Mexican nationals who were strikebreakers, just trying to make a living, and were often called scabs or worse. But I would say that for the most part, Cesar was admired and respected by most in the Chicano/Mexican-American community, and indeed by many Americans. The then county court judge became visibly upset at the host, as he had marched with Cesar Chavez and supported the United Farm Workers, as I did during huelgas, which are farm worker strikes in English, during the 1970s. The judge stated that it was not a gang symbol and that he felt it was actually kind of racist to even allege that. I will not mention the judge's name here as not to embarrass him, as I was good friends with him then and we remain in contact today. I know that he had many gang members that came before him in his courts, but those are mostly sureños. And as most of you officers know, it is often hard to even bring up gang-related crimes in the often liberal West Coast courts. The cop was also good friends with me and a good community-based policing officer, but he grew up in Orange County in Southern California and stayed out of this debate. As tactfully as I could, and as the judge looked at me in shock, I stated that, in fact, it was often used by Northern Norte 14 gang members as a gang symbol, as I also described in the recent Northern Structure Nuestra Raza video. I explained to the host that they stole it from the United Farm Workers, and that while Major NF shot caller Black Bob Vasquez's dad, Chino, was very close to Cesar, neither one of them endorsed its misuse by the NF or NS, or Norte, as I've heard some claim. Shortly after that, I saw this news episode, which describes this misinformation probably better than I could in a separate video. I did kind of chuckle when the producers made it sound like the FBI all of a sudden discovered it with this breaking news around 2015, which was the time frame that I recall it came out on television. I found this interesting because I saw it being used way back in the late 1970s when my neighbor in Yakima, Washington, who was a Fresno F-14 gang member, had a large red Huelga Bird on his black motorcycle gas tank. Throughout the ages, human history has often been told with revisionism and sometimes warped or outright misrepresentation of factual evidence. So watch and learn if you don't already know. Gracias y viva Cesar Chavez.
The marches and the struggle for justice began in the 60s. That's also when the powerful symbol of the United Farm Workers was born. A black eagle with squared indentations instead of feathers, and the head facing its left, not the right.
I'm very proud of this symbol because my father, my older brother, the ones that actually developed it.
His father is brother of the late civil rights leader Cesar Chavez. They wanted a symbol simple enough for anyone to draw, yet so powerful it would carry the message of the United Farm Workers Union.
All of us are looking for a place under the sun. By that I mean for a union that we can belong as farm workers, was going to be built by farm workers and is going to be for farm workers.
To this day, Chavez family members feel the power of what's known as the Huelga Bird. Many tattoo it on their bodies.
To my family, it means, a lot of pride, a lot of having been able to break the chains of oppression.
Now, a stunning revelation. The FBI says street and prison gangs have, quote, hijacked the Huelga Bird, using it for their own criminal purposes.
Well, the Nuestra Familia and the Norteños use symbols like the Huelga bird to designate membership. They use it to mark their territory. They use it to communicate between members who are in prison and those who are on the street.
NBC 11 has learned through other sources some gangs use the Huelga bird to show their true loyalty only after killing someone for the gang. There's also word they use the indentations to represent the gang's hierarchy, with generals and lieutenants at the very top.
It pains me when I hear that there are persons that are criminal elements, gang members of gangs that are doing antisocial things, that are preying upon our population, our own communities, that are using that symbol for that. That hurts me deeply.
Chavez says the news would also hurt his Uncle Cesar if he was alive, a man who would not turn a blind eye to yet another potential fight.
He would see this as a challenge, and he would be determined to try to get that eagle back.
But Chavez says Cesar would also try to work with the gang members. He would try to show them the true meaning of the Huelga bird and encourage them to follow it. Freddie says Cesar Chavez would also talk to the kids, like those who live around his former home here on Scharf Avenue in San Jose. He would tell them not to devote their lives to the streets, but to live a life of public service and break the endless chain of gang violence. A chain that's now linking itself to a rich part of American history, ironically one that's rooted on the concept of nonviolence.